Hi everybody, this is Excel 10-minute leaders live, 10 minutes to make you think a little bit about life in general. Maybe revisit, challenge some of your assumptions. My name's Graham Brown, joined in the studio today all the way from Tampa, Florida. Was it Tampa, Florida? But I know it's Florida. Excuse me if I got that wrong. Charles Collins, we're going to talk about life as a craft. Charles, welcome to the studio.
Good evening in Singapore, Graham. Thank you for
Good
having me.
morning. I got it wrong. It wasn't Tampa, was it?
It's Palm
Palm
Beach, but
Beach.
that's okay. As long as they know it's Florida, it's hot, no matter which way you go. So you're fine.
Right. They go from one hot tropical destination to
Absolutely.
another. All right.
Equatorial.
That's right. So, Charles, we're going to talk about life as a craft today and understand a little bit about understanding what it's all about, asking the bigger questions. So, we've got 10 minutes together. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. Right. Let's start with the basics. Let's get the formalities out of the way, Charles. What's on your business card?
Master craftsman and mentor.
Craftsman. I like that word craft. You've chosen that deliberately. Why didn't you just say coach or trainer or whatever you may have chosen elsewise?
Because I'm none of those per se in the way that they are talked about or used. I'm more of the designer, the plan designer, and for those that want to use this particular blueprint to build their home, then I'm, referenceable as a mentor, but I'm not a coach out there telling you how to hold and bang a hammer. That's your job.
Right. So, what are you a craftsman of? What would you teach me? What could I learn from you?
Well, there would be two sides to it. If you're interested in applying the concept of life as a craft, which is a framework and a structure by which to see what appears to be random and trial and error at first within a context that actually is, oh my gosh, it's structured and I never saw it before. It's like looking at the top of a jigsaw box and saying, oh, that's what it's supposed to look like. Then we would use tools associated with that. In my business profession, if you were to look at it, it would be performance excellence in the enterprise and how you're setting goals and objectives and aligning those across the enterprise such that you're achieving a high degree of excellence as a result of the product or service of the organization. So they're both very much parallel, but they have two very distinctive end goals. One is a product or service excellence. The other one is making a masterpiece of your life.
We don't often think about life as a craft, do we? We don't often think about tools to design and make life. It generally happens, it unfolds for us, for most people. Why did you choose the language of craft when talking about life? Because that's not common, is it?
No, it isn't common. And when we talk about, if we get to the movie at the end of the conversation, I'll give you the opening shot to tell you how that started, but leave some hesitation or leave some anticipation in the audience.
Yeah.
But from the craft perspective, it evolved over time due to an investigation research that I was doing. And what I ended up realizing was that all this randomness that you were just describing, all of this just kind of unfolding with no rhyme or reason, is actually something that human beings learned to manage and take control over 10,000 years ago when they decided to organize their crafts, their trades, their occupations, and they figured out how to organize it, how to establish the body of knowledge that was going to be learned, how to teach you processes, and how to show you the skillful application of tools when you're doing your trade or your craft. So it's a very human thing, this approach to taking what appears to be random and bringing it into a format that can be taught and learned and improved upon. So I use that model and said, well, why can't we do that for all the other subjects in life? And that was the birth of life as a craft.
I like the analogy. If I was a master weaver back in the pre-industrial era and I was teaching my son, and it probably would have been a son or a family member, the craft, I would have imparted the wisdom. I probably would have organized as a guild, I suppose, as well, that we would have collated resources and knowledge and parted the knowledge to later generations such that it wasn't all oral tradition. It was written down, help them understand. And really, the goal was to help that next generation have a better chance and not repeat these mistakes all over again. It seems obvious in the context of craft, but you say 10,000 years that we've been doing this. Why haven't we been doing it for life? That would have been surely top of the billing. Look, you can make stuff, but let's sort our lives out first. How come that got shunted to the side?
I don't know. I asked the same question, Graham. How come? I said, look at it's brilliant over here what we've done. You just took the audience through a beautiful, timeline of exactly how trade and craft evolves, from the simple practitioner to eventually to guilds and societies and then institutions of learning to teach you the trade and the craft, and then levels of standards of excellence and so forth and so on. I mean, we've got the model. It's there and it's time tested. So I said, why the hell aren't we doing this with everything else? And so that's what started the journey.
Wow. So I'm curious now, before we get to the movie, let's talk about what we can learn. We don't have a lot of time together, but you've studied life as a craft. You're a craftsman yourself, and
Yes.
you, in a very meta way, are a craftsman of craft, if we can go there.
Exactly.
So with life itself, if we were to have, let's say, 2 minutes together over a coffee or a beer, and you were to say, okay, right, Graham, I'm going to impart some wisdom to you. I'm going to teach you the craft. Here are the tools. We're not going to make baskets, but we're going to talk about your life. What would I learn in 2 minutes? Where would I start? Where are the kind of the lever points or the quick wins that most people can make in improving their lives?
Level set the following. Number one, if you've learned a trade, a craft, a profession, a vocation, you learned that there was a body of knowledge and it was broken into certain master components so that you could focus and learn what those master components were, right? And then secondly, you went on to incrementally improve in that area by practicing your processes and skillfully using tools under the guidance of a mentor. And third, you did it over a period of time, a distinct period of time. You entered as an apprentice, and over years of practice, you then eventually achieved mastery in the trade and the craft. In life, the exact same structure exists. There are 5 principal component areas that everyone's life, all the things we do, fall into. So the craft of life has a structure just like woodworking or the law. The second thing is you can incrementally improve in all of those areas, little by little, over time, during your lifetime, which is in 4 phases because your life is 80 years long. So there are 4 phases from apprentice to journey to masterwork and mentorship. And you can learn it as a craft if you don't want to live by trial and error, hit and miss, catch as catch can. So the choice is yours. One is go blindly, or the other is work on making a masterpiece of your life. Which one do you want to do?
Yeah, it's an easy decision, right? When you talk about that, I'm fascinated by this idea of master components, 5 areas of master components in life. What would one of those be, for example, that people tend not to think of as a component?
That the human being, which is element 4 of the 5, is the primary material in the craft of life, just as wood is to the carpenter, as clay is to the potter. So if we're going to shape our inner and outer human being to become a masterpiece in time, then we need to understand the material we're working with. And every trade and craft makes you study the material. So step 1 is learning about the material. Because if you don't understand its stress points, and if you don't understand how it works, you're going to break it and you're going to damage it. And most people hack their material with tools in a terrible way. And that's one of the 5 elements.
Yeah, this is powerful. I'm loving this. And, for me, I find that the best way to understand complex problems is through a lens or a framework and a story in a way. And one of the most powerful stories is an analogy, which is to help people understand through another way of viewing things. Like I understand craft. Can I apply that to life as well? And then that makes you start thinking about things and seeing things differently. And then, applying knowledge and wisdom and schema that work in this area to something over here. So it's fascinating. I'm really enjoying this. So I'm also a little bit annoyed that we don't have much time to talk about this as well, but then that gives the audience more motivation to go and find out more about you. But before we do that, let's do this at the end. I love the fact that you are, in a very understated way, a storyteller, and a great one at that. And I can see that you're using very simple structures to tell these stories. If you were to be, let's say, to take this to another level, a director of a movie, writing a script for a movie. Let's say you're writing your movie, your autobiography, and I'm giving you a big budget here to work with this movie. So, you can get all the actors that you want. So, but that opening scene of your movie, let's talk about that. What would it be? It's not obviously going to be chronologically the scene where you were born, but that pivotal scene that really revealed this information to you and made sense of it. How would you direct this?
Script, interior shot, close-up move into a family kitchen. Dad is at the sink washing a dish. Young child sitting at the cooking island with a crayon and paper and drawing. Open dialogue, child to father. Hey, Dad, what's the purpose of my life? Close-up shot on Dad's face. Complete shock and awe.
I love it. The existential question just caught him out completely. Well, I'd love to find out what happens next in that movie. So, Charles, where do we find out more about you?
LifeMasterpieceJournal.com.
Fantastic. It's out there. Folks, go and check it out. Go and find out more about life as a craft. What more do you need to know? Charles, it's been a real pleasure having you on the show today. I really enjoyed that.
My
Thanks
pleasure.
a lot for joining me.
Thank you for having me.